talking today about race consciousness because we teach that race consciousness is a very real thing, that we all carry and are affected by impressions that we've never actually thought or experienced ourselves. That each person that we encounter in our life, every person has a subjective atmosphere, just like every place has a subjective atmosphere. It's like when you come to church. There's a feeling here, whether or not there are people here at all. Or if you went back to your hometown, when you got there, there would be a feeling that you're not unfamiliar with. And it's like our nation has a subjective atmosphere. And so what that is, it's the combined thought of all those people that inhabit a nation. And they create sort of a national consciousness. And so the history of the race is written in the mental atmosphere of the planet on which we live. So there is literally the atmosphere of thought surrounding our planet, because anything and everything that has ever happened has left its imprint. And this is the same for us personally. Everything that has ever happened in our life has imprinted on the subjective mind. So everything that has happened on the planet has imprinted on this mental atmosphere or thought force also. Now there is a tendency for all of us to reproduce the accumulated subjective experiences of the human race, particularly in those areas that we most often see in the news media. So what do I mean by all of this? Well, very simply, there's a collective agreement. There is an agreement of thought. There is in the race consciousness of the planet for what happens as you age, say. And it's not a very good agreement either. There's an agreement on the planet for what happens or what should be happening to people with regards to lack versus abundance. And that's not very good either right now. There's an agreement for what happens to people as they age with regards to their health. That's way not good. Now these are simply statistics, but there are always exceptions. And the people who are the exceptions are very, very fascinating people. It seems like every month or so we drag out and we hear about some person who's not falling into the statistics. Recently there was some lady on a remote island in Japan. She was about 118 years old. And not only did she still have her marbles, but she could play a good game and she could count them too. So she had the whole thing going there. But unfortunately, much of what the race consciousness holds, and that's always trying to impress itself upon us, is not very, well, it's not the highest and the best thought. Actually, it's kind of like the lowest common denominator. So what I want us to understand as we start this morning is that the race mind is the subjective thought of the entire race. It's not particularly what we're thinking in consciousness and in a conscious way, although that could be part of it. See, there are human beliefs operating through the mentality of every individual. And we have a tendency to reproduce what the race has thought and experienced for eons. I'm this age, I should feel like this. I'm this age, I should look like this. I'm this age, I should be catching this or that, whatever this or that is. So we have a tendency to reproduce what the race has thought and experienced. And we always actually hear people talking about like, well, something's going around, you know, something's going around. And my suggestion to them when they come to me with that kind of thing is, when it goes around, have it go around you. Don't be catching it. There are these accumulated subjective tendencies of the human race that are operative through any person. whoever is receptive to them. So the thinking of the race is pressing itself down on us all the time. And we will be subject to it if we are receptive to it at all. And here's the thing, we're all receptive to it. So a way to protect ourselves from it is knowing that it cannot operate through you. And you do that by knowing that I cannot be affected by the thoughts of the race consciousness. I cannot be affected in any way by the negative thinking of the world around me. I am master of my own consciousness. I am in charge of my own thought. Other people's experiences do not have to be my experience. See, if we let other people think for us, they will. They will rush right in because they'd rather think for you than think for themselves. They'd much rather mind your business. Haven't we all noticed that? And the thing is, it will not be for your highest and your greatest good. And it's not that they're mean-spirited or anything, but people cannot take you higher in consciousness than they can take themselves. So each of us, we know, we get, we understand that we are each an individual expression of the infinite intelligence, the divine mind, God, creative spirit. And because we have free will, we were all born and created with free will and choice. Because of that, we have the capacity to evolve our life forward, to grow, to heal, to expand, and apart from anybody else. Our healing, our growth, our expression is not dependent on what other people are doing in their consciousness. And so the race thought will always just say, well, this is what's so. There's no hope. It's always going to be this way. It's that low common denominator again. It's untrained thought. And Ernest Holmes teaches us in The Science of Mind that trained thought is much more powerful than untrained thought. People are subject to the race thought if they have not trained their own thinking. Simple as that. And there's no spiritual truth in the race thought. It's statistics. It's the statistics of the news media and the insurance carriers. It truly is. It's all based on statistics. So for us to progress in consciousness, we have to lay aside race thought and embrace a new reality. You have to embrace something greater. Now I understand that everybody has stuff that they're dealing with, the infamous stuff. So you get to acknowledge what you're dealing with and simply say to yourself, okay, this is an appearance that I'm dealing with in regards to my health. Okay, this is an appearance that I'm dealing with in regards to my finances. This is what's happening in my relationship arena. But the place upon which I stand is holy ground. It is not the whole picture about me. The fullness and the allness of God is right here, operating through me. God in me right now is more powerful than all of the thinking that created and contributed to these conditions. So I am a free being. You are a free being in God, in spirit, in divine intelligence. You're not bound by the beliefs of others. Not even bound by the beliefs of your past. We have a wonderful teaching that says, principle has no precedence. We can start any time. Now, I agree that this is work, and this work is hard. But it's also hard to always be trying to get out of some mess that's happening in our lives because of the thinking of the race consciousness that we bought into, that we weren't vigilant enough to guard ourselves against, that we let the world, through its thinking, do our thinking for us rather than do our own. So if you're going to put energy and effort into something, Why not put energy and effort into something that heals and grows and expands your life, rather than just cleaning up the world's mess? And that mess is actually being the thinking that comes into your life. This is why the race evolves so slowly, but individual people can progress faster. You know, we hear an awful lot about it's going to take years to heal certain things and to get cures for certain things. And it's going to take billions of dollars to research for those things and to have those cures come about. And there's tremendous agreement in the race consciousness about all of that. Lots and lots of agreement about that in race consciousness. Well, we're in the science of mind. And what I have to tell you is that it's already done in the mind of God. It's already done. So let's just start alphabetically for a minute. We could say Alzheimer's. We could say AIDS. We could say breast cancer. We could say any other kind of cancer. We could say diabetes. The list goes on and on and on. And we're just 4 letters into the alphabet. And look where we are already. And the reality is that it's already done. It's there already in the mind of God. There is already a cure for all of those things. But if we think it's going to take another 20 years and $60 billion a year to have us make progress in those areas, it will, because there's an agreement about that. But let me tell you something. If every time you see a pink ribbon or a pink KitchenAid appliance or a red ribbon or things like that, if you'd simply say to yourself, I know the cure already exists. I know that cure exists now in the mind of God, and it's coming forth on earth. And my consciousness stands as an opening for where the light can start to shine in that area in a greater way. See, if we would all start now, if we could have a collective race consciousness agreement that the cure for these things is right now, we would not have to see one more person suffer with Alzheimer's or one more child have juvenile diabetes. And that would be an extraordinary thing. But if we keep telling ourselves, and if we keep saying it's going to be another 20 years and science only moves so fast, and this is how long the research takes, let's be clear, God already has the answer for these things. We don't have some snarky-ass little God who's got a cure and not giving it to us. I'm not giving you the cure until you do 50,000 more AIDS walks and have another more $1 million for every day for breast cancer and this and that. Instead of all of these walks, we could just get together and have a party and eat. We could eat and dance and party all night long, and that would be great. Because we have to understand the information that we need already exists. But we have to be in agreement that we have an agreement that we're buying into that it's going to take a while. Let's get clear about it. It's something that we've made up. We've agreed on it, that this business that it's going to take a while. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. Einstein tells us that time and space are constructs of the mind. And so we made up this whole notion of time. It can happen right now, any time between now and right now, as I like to say. So we have to be, each of us, we have to be in personal communion with the divine spirit daily. Because it's when we're quiet that we receive new thoughts, divine ideas. Divine thoughts can come to us in the quiet. And then what we do after we receive them is then we take them out into the world. Quite simply, every day, every time if we just saw those ribbons and bracelets that we see everywhere we walk, every time if we would just say, I know that the healing That cure already exists. I know it already exists. It's not like it hasn't been created. It's not like God is turning around and saying, I need more time. God does not need more time. We don't believe in a God that withholds. We don't believe in a God that withholds food from children or cures from disease or anything like that. That's not what we believe. We don't have a God that withholds. So humans love to say, what do I need to do? What do I need to do, right? You know? Because we feel so productive when we're doing. What can I do? Well, the first thing you can do is you can meditate, where you listen to the voice of God within you, the voice of the infinite, the creative intelligence of the universe within you. And I promise it's there. But it's not going to speak up over all the other voices and the doing, and the busy. So you have to make an effort, and I have to make an effort to be quiet first. And then after the quiet, we can take action in the world. The world always wants us to be doing. Get out there and do something. Be doing this, be doing that. But just because you're running around doing stuff doesn't mean that anything's happening. Doesn't mean you're making progress, does it? In Los Angeles, we're one of the cities that just runs around more than anybody, I think, you know? We just do a lot. But we're not necessarily making progress in a lot of areas. So Science of Mind says, just sit down. Just sit for a while. Be still. Go within. And then, after you've taken the time to go within, and your consciousness has been lifted up and it's a little more illuminated, then go out and do something. Then go out into the world. So it's always about going within. And I like to say, if you don't go within, you're going to go without. So Science of Mind teaches us that no matter what may be affecting your thought, the state of our conscious mind can change it in a flash. And we use treatment, and a treatment is very simply an affirmative prayer. By consciously knowing that there's no race thought operating in, through, or around me, by consciously knowing that there's no race suggestion, no thinking in the world around me of a limited, fearful, sick, death-oriented nature is having any effect on me. None of that negativity is having any effect on me. And that's part of the work. That's about half of it. And the other half is that our conscious mind has to provide a greater idea. So you can't just say, I'm not affected by the thinking of the world. That's good. It really is good, but it's only part of it. Because then you have to provide a higher idea for yourself, a greater truth that says, I'm surrounded and I'm filled with all good. And this includes everything that makes life worthwhile. So here's the thing. If you don't know how to do treatment or affirmative prayer the way we do it in church, that's okay. Because what we call prayer or what we call treatment is that we are continually treating the conditions in our lives with the thoughts that we hold about them. So what you think about, that's what's coming true. That's your prayer. What you really are thinking about anything and everything is your prayer, is your treatment. And so you want to be praying the prayer. You want to be praying the solution rather than the problem. You want to pray that solution as a done deal rather than focusing and praying on the problem. So it's not just about closing your eyes. Your thought concerning any subject is a treatment, because visible conditions always result from invisible thoughts. That's what we teach. It starts with invisible thoughts. In the scripture it says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Think about that. Transformed. That's made completely new. That is completely different, not recognizable. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Not be ye a little fluffed up by just a little change in thinking. No, renew your mind completely different. You must hold something completely new in your mind. New. Different from what's been going on in your life before. Because the universal medium at once starts to change with us as we change. When we change. When we get new direction. The universe says, okay, this is where we're going. And everything in the universe begins to support us. So if we go downtown with your thinking, if we do that, the universe says, okay, interesting choice. Downtown we're going to go. But if you go uptown with your consciousness, with your thinking, the universe says, okay, more interesting choice, more fun choice, and up it'll go. The universe says yes. This is a yes universe we live in. So if you say, I am, whatever you say that about, the universe begins to work. It begins to work to bring that forward, bringing forth those conditions in your life. And the spiritual truth is that whatever is held in consciousness, if you hold it in your conscious mind until it becomes part of your subconscious mind, until it becomes part of your subconscious thought, that's when it tends to take place in the world of effect, in your outer life. You hold it in here long enough, you affirm it, you see it, you pray about it, you think about it, you feel it, you accept it, you accept it, you accept it, you believe it, and eventually it drops into your subjective mind, and then the universe can start really working on it for you. Ernest Holmes says that the reason that we do not demonstrate or have healings is because the subjective state of the thought is too often neutralized by the objective state. That we're saying one thing, all high and mighty and wonderful and life-affirming and abundant and peaceful and joyful, and 2 seconds later, we're just saying completely the opposite. And what that does is that erases out all the good of the work that we just did. Now, the other thing I think about with regards to this is that people say, well, it just must not be God's time. Hear this. God's time for your demonstration is right now. Let's be clear. Just like God doesn't withhold, God does not have to say, well, Tuesday at noon, I have an opening for your demonstration. God does not do that. Creative intelligence doesn't do that. Spirit's time for your demonstration, for your healing, for your creative expression, for your abundance, for your greater love is right now. God wants you to be healed and happy and abundant and loved and have creative expression in your life right now. God is ready the moment that you are. So how about you being ready? Why don't you decide, I'm going to be ready right now? Because there's nothing to wait for except the change in your own consciousness and change in my consciousness. That's all, that's it. And people, they'll say, well, it's all in God's time. It'll happen at the right time. I'm telling you, the time to be happy, healthy, and abundant is now. The only place to be is here. God is everywhere equally present. There's as much God right here as there, where you are right now as there is anywhere else, and as much as there's ever going to be. So why not get on the boat? Jesus gave us this wonderful teaching. He says, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. I love that. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. It's right here. Close. You know? Hand. So don't keep yourself out of the kingdom by making up these postponements or being at the effect of race consciousness. Remember the collective thinking of the world. If it does your thinking for you, it's not going to be in your best interest. Does everybody understand that? This is why you have to keep up your own spiritual mental household. If we change our consciousness now, it can all happen in a moment. We could get people to start saying that, you know, if we could just get people to start saying that the cure for breast cancer exists today, it would come forward on earth. If enough people would believe that, if we would say, I believe that we do not have to have one more child with juvenile diabetes, this stuff would happen. This is what our teaching is based on. In Romans it says, for now is our salvation nearer than what we've believed. It's closer than what we thought. So that there's no need to be unhappy. There's no need to be at the world of effect. There's no need to be disappointed and to not feel loved, or to be ill, or to feel discouraged. You know, as long as we accept a negative condition as the way it is, and there's no way out of it, and this is how it must be, it's always going to be this way, it's going to continue to persist. But as a spiritual being, you're free. You are endowed with free will and free choice, and you're all intelligent people, and you can lift to a higher frequency in your life. You can lift to love and joy and peace and abundance, because they're all attributes of spirit. And who are you? You're spirit, individualized. So that means that joy and peace and love and abundance and all those great things, they exist within you, even if you haven't believed it up until now. Just because you haven't believed it doesn't mean that they're not there. Your job is to let them out. But it's like those bad habits of thought. It just seems easier to have bad habits of thought. It just seems so easy to be in a bad habit about how we think of ourselves, and to see ourselves as limited and lacking and deficient, and how we see life as the little pie with only so many pieces. Life is infinite. You're infinite. And we're working. You know, it's work, it is, to cultivate a life that's worth living. But here's the thing. It's also work to have a life that doesn't work very well. I've been down that road. So where do I want to put my emphasis? Where do you want to put your emphasis? Where do you want to put your focus, your talents, your creative ability? I would think you would want to put it in your divinity and the way the world works as a wonderful, wonderful expression of the infinite. And you can start living the life you came here to live. And so it is.